So I'm joined, of course, by Dr. Andreas Andy Wilhelm. Yay! And
Thank you.
Kathleen Cohen. And yay, our jury chair. So I'm going to start. We have saved some really great content for you guys, and what we're going to do is I'm just doing a little introduction about myself, and then we're going to kick it off with some really great details about the future of this mass market. Are we there yet? So a little bit of background on myself. I am coming from the San Francisco Bay Area, and I actually was living in Berlin up until 2015. And at that time, I'd had a background in the video game industry and in the Japanese animation industry, working in media, working in advertising sales, and later having consulting business and working in Berlin. And when I came back to the Bay Area in 2015, there was a buzz in the air, this notorious Silicon Valley land of dreams, land of amazing opportunity, of course. And I had been living in Germany, and I went back, and I was working for a startup that was using scanning technology, 3D scanning technology, to basically create an early new property management platform. And it got me really excited about what 3D photography could do, what reality capture could do, and it set me off on an amazing path, discovering everything that using reality capture and 3D photography could enable, because it was basically an end-to-end solution for virtual reality. And I started using Matterport technology, started a company, Hopscotch Interactive, and then was kind of dissatisfied because I couldn't combine the map, a real map, with the 3D content yet. So that fast forward to today, and now I've built a augmented reality platform that does do that, combines the interior world and the exterior world. And I lead the VR AR Association San Francisco chapter. And so I also build community. I build VR community, AR community. I travel around the world evangelizing for this community because it's so important to me, and I really do believe that it is the next computing platform. With that, I'd like to introduce the panelists again one more time and have them say a little bit more about themselves.
Yeah, I'm Andy. Everybody calls me Andy. I'm Dr. Andreas Wilhelm. Actually, I'm a former physician, and I founded the company in 2010, and since then we are in the XR space. Actually, I will show you in a few slides why is that. And now we're running VR player, and actually we're a market leader behind Facebook and Google with Playout. Every second we play 20 videos in VR, and that's kind of mass adoption already. And yeah, hope I can add some ideas, some insights, what it should take to make it massively available for everybody. Yeah, and I'm pretty happy to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
Well, you all heard from me this morning a lot. I'm going to stay quiet. But what I heard myself say is that, wow, I'm a humanist who really cares about storytelling and who cares about social good and social action. And with this new immersive platform, it feels like an evolution of many, many years of sort of, I think Frank from, where are you, Frank? From UFA. We were, oh,
there
different Frank, another Frank.
Two Franks.
Both of you Franks. We were talking about how this is a natural evolution. So yeah, experienced strategist, part futurist, part human. That's all I have to say.
She's definitely blending realities.
Yeah, right?
Yeah?
I blend all realities, yeah.
So, great. So maybe we could go into some of this content that we have here to share with y'all. And, and then that'll hopefully pique some more discussion.
So I will just take you through the journey, because we learned a lot in the last 8 years. We started as a company, a small company based in Berlin, and we are truly interested in new technologies, and I think that's proven because we had the first augmented reality game in the App Store. At this time, it was the iPhone 3GS and iPhone 4, and the iPad 2 was coming out with the first camera. And maybe to get an idea what we have built there, I will just show you the trailer from back in the days. So the idea was just to play with your world and use the new technology to build something new and make some crazy stuff. iPhone 4. Yeah, so this was the original trailer, and back in the days it was also getting pretty popular. We got a peak, Apple was featuring us, and we got like 200K downloads worldwide, so it was pretty good. And this gave us some money actually to start then our real business. So at this time WebGL was showing up. WebGL, for everybody who's not knowing what it is, it's kind of new technology in the browser that enables complex rendering. So that means you can take like rendering pipelines what wasn't possible before. And our CTO was seeing clearly that this is a huge advantage. So we were betting on this technology and building the first web engine. Everybody knows 3GS. We are 3GS, but not as open source. And so we start up building this technology. Basically, this means you don't have to install any additional software if you want to look at some complex renderings. For example, you can render like cars and some other things that you normally have to install, like Flash or an app or something. And with this technology, you browse the website and just press play and you're there. And so actually this was working quite good. At this time, we believed that we could build like the second Unity. Yeah, that was a bit big for us, actually. And WebGL wasn't enabled on any device. For example, it wasn't on the iPhone. It just came with iOS 8. But we make some interesting things. So one day, Warner Brothers was calling us, and Christopher Nolan asked for the new movie Interstellar because he was super interested in get the immersion that they try to produce in the movie also on the screens, on the devices, without installing any software. So we make this Interstellar. This is the Endurance, the spaceship that you can walk through while navigating and directly in the browser. And so you were able to push this also on news and media sites. This was on USA Today and was just played like 20 million times or something. So, and Nolan himself, he's pretty anal about like lighting and physical-based rendering, so how it looks, and we imitate the IMAX lenses and everything, so try to make it pretty cool. So this was a cool success, but actually still working as an agency. And then 2016, we put all the things together and see that our engine is kind of bridging the gap, solving a problem that's real there because of everybody knows the huge hardware and software fragmentation in the VR space is a real problem. You mean you have just a small audience and you have to focus on a device, or you just have to, there's some things not possible on other devices. So we came around with this idea to build a player that is running on any device, on any headset without installing any software. And we have done this because I would like to take you to the journey. If you look at the common VR inputs, so we try to split it down. You see like games and 3D experiences, that is what everybody is just connecting with VR. This is super costly to produce, everybody knows this, and takes a long time, and also it takes a huge team. It needs Unity developers, a huge team of developers, and then you're just able to bring it on one device, and it costs like around 300 to 500K. That's a lot of money, and if you want to bring it to other devices, you have to spend even more money. And so this is why the fragmentation happens. And if you have a look at the whole market there, or what's possible, like the displays that are out there, the market and the input you see that you just have a very, very narrow space. And the scale isn't right, because if I scale this right, the VR headsets are thin like a needle, and the other devices are much more. So we make like also some examples with 3D video or 360 video, and also there you need an app development, encoding, special hosting, and apps for every device. And I want to show you with a little example, how long does it take to watch one video with one headset. And we're counting the time, so you're searching the web for video, and you have to find it, to identify it. And then, cool, okay, that's it, and now we're running the timer, and then you download this, and now you have to search. First download it, save it, everything cool, and now you have to search for an app to install on your headset, especially, for example, here, the Oculus. So you're searching like a video player, DOVR, then you have to put it on the player, and then you can watch the video. It's taking like 4 minutes, average. Yeah, that's if you make it once. And what we have done is, with our technology, to make this super easy and available for everybody, because you don't have to install anything. And we nailed it down with our example. I will just show you. You go on the website, find your video, press play, auto detect the device, and you're there. 4 seconds. So that's cool. And that's why also we're so popular in a way. But actually, to be honest, we're not there where we want to be, because there are a lot of other problems. But our approach is there to just target not only VR in VR-wise, we target the whole new video market and say, okay, we have a lot of devices where you can display video and new kind of videos, and that's our story. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, right? So we've definitely identified one of the major hurdles to VR adoption, right? Which is the hardware. We know that hardware is one of the biggest challenges, because it's expensive, because not everybody has it. There's not always a use case for it. But you've also identified something that I think is really interesting with your solution, which is that this sort of the seamless experience of being able to get content across all devices enables us to sort of be in charge of how we are consuming that content. So I can choose the platform that is whatever is the most, convenient for me. And maybe you can talk a little bit more about the sort of the differences between your approach and perhaps the WebXR approach, right? This other notion, especially coming from San Francisco, which is that this Mozilla product, or WebXR, is going to be the thing that enables VR to become so easily accessed once we get into the territory a few years down the road, when people have wearable devices, when we have 5G networks, and all of these kinds of things. I'm just wondering if you could sort of tell that future through your lens.
Yeah, I think that WebXR, actually we support that out of the box, but we weren't willing to wait till the whole community is just decide to say yes to something. That's just so political. But we support this out of the box, so it's very, very good. The problem is with a huge standard that it takes time. It takes, for example, now, same with WebGL, we're experiencing this, takes 8 years till it's pretty much there. So I believe that it's super important to be like cross-platform. That means we try to be the WhatsApp for VR video. Why is that? Because, yeah, SMS was cool, iMessage was cool, but it was just on Apple devices. And WhatsApp just nailed it down to make it massively available. And also the experience, it's everywhere, it's the same. And our player is white label, so everybody can use this and build their own brand on it in a way. And we don't care that we're not like big branded there, because we want that they could focus on the content, make the best content they get, and then have the best experience, because just when everything's played together, you get a serious experience that can compete with all the 4K television that are out there. Because, to be honest, if you have a VR headset on, it feels like 1990 with all the pixels, and if I look at my crisp TV, it's totally different. It feels like future. So we have to concern about these things, and also about the round trip, and we discussed this yesterday also, how to interact with the content. So our next approach is to make it also from how to navigate very easy, and you get also some interesting approach there, or just also burning for something. I think we can discuss this too.
We were talking about voice and voice assistance. So with that, I can imagine that this mass adoption happens easily with voice assist. And just on a story level, this is interesting. So my mother is a music fanatic, and she has her favorite CD player. So for Mother's Day, we got rid of the CD player and we put in Alexa, and she was livid. And it took maybe 3 seconds for my mom to now be so delighted that every morning on all of her kids' voicemail, she leaves a song on Alexa for us to guess, but that she's 75 years old, or actually 77, and she is an adopter, quickly got rid of her old tech. And here's the best part. She was, and she has been, a diabetic who was going to face amputation, and she's up dancing now every morning, and the doctors have given her a clean bill of health because she has oxygen running in her system. So there's a human interest story with voice assist that's changed somebody's life who's in a generation well beyond ours. And if that adoption has happened and voice assist can really add to this, you know, that's sort of my take on where you're going with voice assist, I think you said, next.
Yeah, I think the major part is that every little experience, on every device got totally different paradigm while using the controller.
Yeah.
And actually, if you're not a gamer and used to use a gamepad, also these controllers can be confusing. It blows the mind. If I put a VR headset on my mother's head, she's totally lost. And so also the second screen is super important, that you can assist people while using VR. And also we're going to fix this soon, that we have available a second screen experience while somebody's watching VR and be like in his own world. You can just assist and also like guide them through the experience. And then a paradigm is very important, that you find the buttons, that you find the same patterns of usage. And if you use voice control, it's super easy. Just say play or stop, or forward, back, and zoom in, zoom out, next. And so we're going to enable this soon, because we believe that this is the future, because voice is more convenient, cross-device, cross-reality.
Yeah.
And it's there the road is going. And I believe that this is going to fix some problems we have. And I'm just talking about video. So everybody who's making real VR, I'm super proud of you guys, but we have done all these things before with 3D content, and it's so hard to produce this content. You need 3D models and everything. But for video, this seems for us an approach that is good to get a massive market, and also that's what we see. And I can share some funny insights. So we have, every second we play like 20 video in VR. That means like 50 million a month. It depends. For example, if it's hot outside, we have seen during the summer a drop of 20% of the views, because nobody wants to wear a headset when it's hot outside. So it's not like compatible with each time of the year. And then you see like the Christmas peak where the new headsets coming out. And also what's funny to see is we're offering this video that you can watch it with a magic window on your device, and you can just auto-detect if you have a VR-ready device to play it in the VR headset. Yeah. And just 30% are watching the video in VR. 70% are watching the whole video, view-through rate from 100%, with a magic window, and they're enjoying it, and they're zooming in and do some things. So I think to educate an audience and just bring it just to paradigm and how to use this is also a very important step that we have to take, and to consider that we don't have to isolate these themes from other multimedia channels like video. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that it's absolutely one of these big questions, and that within the VR industry, I've seen myself, like you're talking about your mother, and we're talking about these millions of people, and we're talking about being able to cross the chasm, right, at some point. Like, where are we? Are we in the chasm? Are we not in the chasm? And one of the things that I've been thinking about so much the last year, in fact, is I spend so much time talking to other people in the VR industry, right? And that I felt like I needed to flip the model. I felt like I wanted to evangelize to people outside. And then I thought to myself, well, okay, so I'll go to these other conferences. I'll go talk to other people that are not VR people, right? And I will bring the message. And I'm just curious, though, because in some ways it's like, well, will it happen automatically? Because if we have AR and VR content that's going to go on all devices in just a number of years, and we see that the demand for certain content is certainly higher than others, or voice activation, you know, what do we have to push? Where, as an industry, do we need to put the foot on the gas and say, okay, well, better hardware, better fidelity, faster load times for 3D content on the web? You know, there are so many questions we could be asking ourselves. What do you think is going to be the thing that really moves it forward? Is it Apple with glasses? Is it? We're just curious what your thoughts are on all that. Go ahead.
I think that a huge indicator is what Apple is doing. So Apple is pretty good in just watching the trends and then find out the right spot at the right time to jump on the train or just leave it. Everybody was wondering why they don't betting on VR. I'm not sure if they see that VR is rising and they had the problems with the AR glasses. This was super cool what you're doing, guys, there from Eye Candy Lab. But I'm not sure if the AR glass is going to be there also in 6 years, because I am a physician, so I know a bit about the humans and the human eye, and it's pretty complicated to get all the things, put all the things together. And if you look at Magic Leap, they are funded with billions of dollars, and what they bring out a better HoloLens. So the problem is truly the eye itself, that you have to make, like, it's physical problems that you have to, it's super complex. But anyway, I'm not sure if it's going to be. So from my perspective, I believe that the first step to answer your question is that you need less headsets, that you have to focus on less headsets, less platforms. That is what's happening now with the consolidation. It was like we're supporting 250 VR headsets with the distortion and the combination. It's way too much. I think for me, the Oculus Go is the first super easy to use headset. The only problem is it's Oculus. It's just try to be a walled garden and you can just use it with the app and a Facebook account. And also there's some headsets from Google, not Google, but Daydream, that are also getting better, because the experience is just to put the headset on, no cable, no tethered, and you're right in there. And I think also that the paradigm that then in VR you're searching the content, searching libraries, it's broken for me. I believe that you should have a clear idea what you expect, and that's why I love this roller coaster shit, because I was blown away. Actually, I ran yesterday. I was just entering here and say, Clark, Felix, goodbye. I have to go to the roller coaster, and I was loving it. I was driving like 5 times, and it freaks me out. The thing is, it was so perfectly timed, and it's a funny side note, because actually they get 2 rounds on the Alpen Express, and they try to be cool and just add another round on top. So the 3rd round, the VR experience was just finished, and I was driving while the headset on, and it was pretty weird. But that points out how important this is to have like a very good closed experience. You know what you're expecting, and you are guided in a way. And also, like, these experiences with the kicker, it's perfect. It's so nice and tries not to be everything else. It tries to be a cool kicker game in VR that you've never seen before. And for me, I think to get it more accessible or more, you have to have less paradigm. You don't have to be a guy from university to use VR. Everybody should use this. And if you look at the iPhone, why smartphones are so successful, it's because they are so easy to use. And now we're jumping back to complex game pads and things, and I think that's dangerous. But we see the consolidation right now. Sorry.
I was just going to add, up at Oculus Connect in September. It was September, right?
End of September.
Oculus only invited one corporation to show up, and it was Walmart. And on one sense, they were genius for just having Walmart. And in the other sense, it was a little bit of a narrative on what OC5 was showing, which was just all gaming for ROI. And I was thinking that what they would show is some more social good, social interaction, or social action, or cause, or anything. So there's Walmart, and it's a love-hate relationship. However, there's 2 million employees at Walmart. I didn't know that. And by December, 1 million of those employees will have been in gear between the relationship of Striver, Walmart, and Oculus. So it didn't really matter what the content was and how good the content was, and it was for training purposes. It was the first time in Walmart's history that they had lines out the door, and I think Alliance was talking about this too.
Yeah, that's right.
They had lines out the door to sign up for training. So when have you ever heard in your corporation that you were signing up for training? Who cares what the content was? Everybody felt like Walmart is representing. Yeah. So there's an argument there on a corporate mass adoption scale, right. And it would take Walmart to do that. So
I think it's so true, Kathleen, and I did the math on that one, and it turns out that what Walmart has done, it's not just the 2 million employees, but it's 900 million square feet, which is what, about 1 million square meters, a little less than that, like 100 million. So sorry, the math is so bad going from square meters to square feet. But the point is that it's a massive footprint of retail space that is being managed with virtual reality. Yeah. And so I thought, oh wow, they're applying it on a massive scale, right? And so that's the part where when we ask ourselves, has VR arrived yet, right? Are we at do we have the killer app? Well, some would argue, Wallace Poulter, a friend of ours from San Francisco, would say, we haven't even had the launch app yet. Right? There's not even a launch app. You could argue maybe it was Pokemon, right? You could say it's Pokemon Go. But in fact, some would say we're not even at launch. And so I think it's really interesting because on the other flip side of this, we have 50 million views of 360 content streaming on the web every month in what is arguably VR. It's a virtual environment. So I think we have to also get our definitions right and sort of be willing to accept that we are going to have successes that sort of as an aggregate mean the industry is moving forward, but we may not always be able to pinpoint to how it is moving forward at any given point in time. But the enterprise is where the big bucks are going to start coming as well over the next 5 years. They say it's going to go up to 28 billion in revenue from enterprise VR, right? Yeah. So it's a few billion right now, but it's going to be an order of magnitude greater. So I think that's where Walmart comes in, where gas and oil, refineries, safety, training, education, entertainment. I mean, we're going to start to see
the work you're doing.
Yeah,
the work you're doing with
real
your company.
Estate. Yeah, real estate. So we're going to start to see the physical and the digital start to really merge and blend. And so we have to have new ways of interacting with this digital twin environment, with this digital space. But I do think that it's not going to be visible to everybody all at the same time. So it's like the future is already here, right? It's this great quote, but it's just not widely distributed, or evenly distributed.
So to what end in the next 27 years? To what end? Where are we stopping? Because we're constantly trying to evolve. So where do we stop? Where do we say, okay, this is where we drop the line in the sand?
I don't know actually. If I knew, that would be great. But I'm betting on some killer application that is just unifying things. Also, like Candy Eyes pointed out, that's also super interesting to answer the question: does every TV sender or TV channel wants its own app? So that's why they're offering SDK, what's super smart. But actually this leading to fragmentation much more, because I have my whole phone with apps that I never use. And we humans are we use it once, and if we found out it's not cool, then we never open this up again. So you at least get one chance. If these guys would offer like a cross-device, cross-content platform, and I know the arguments exactly because we talked to them too. No, we want to have our own app. And then you got in Germany an RTL, ProSieben, or CNN, BBC app, and everybody tried to solve the same problem, and that's why we're losing all the momentum from these cool things and cool experiences. And we try to solve this in a way that we say, okay, you don't have to really use the same app, but be compatible with each other. That's what you are also doing. And so down the road, we will hope and bet on this, that maybe we can just put everything together and build a huge XR platform with also some other, not competitors, some other friends, I would say here, and to try to build something new, and maybe Google and Facebook's going down. So I hope that something's going to change in the future, and I want to be the killer app for YouTube.
Yes.
Yes. More or less. And we need you guys to spread the message. No, but
it's true. As every interface over history has changed, the incumbents have fallen away. They haven't been able to adapt and keep up, right? They're not nimble. They haven't figured out how to do this. And I think we are moving into a new era of computing. And so as we do that, it has to happen, right? I mean, this is what will happen, is that we'll start to see that new companies with fresh ideas, with innovation, and being nimble and agile will be the way to actually take them on. So maybe with that, we could open up to some of the questions in the audience, because I'm sure that you're all want to know, you have some questions for yourselves. So
yeah.
Is there a mic that we can have?
Somebody can rap. No question.
No question?
I can't see.
Yes. Oh, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, one question from my side in terms of mass market and the usage. You didn't talk about sports, where we might see an interesting element to use VR. I mean, we see it here with the kicker and other ones. How do you see that in terms of sports as one acceleration for the technology?
Why we use? I haven't got it. Why don't?
So we have on the one side entertainment.
Yeah.
So that's like games, videos, and so on.
Yeah.
But there's potentially, if you look at how the sports market involves,
Yeah.
that people, you have 60% of world population living in cities and not able to go for sailing and this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Is that something you agree on? Is that something you don't see? Because
it's difficult. Next VR for sure. So the bet was that if you watch like an NBA game in VR, it's going to immerse you so much. But actually, the normal way to watch an NBA game, it's much cooler because the cuts are better. You see much more while sitting there at the side of the play and just don't get it where it is. So I think you have to be carefully have a look at the use case from this. I believe that a mixture out of like the mainstream of 2D content on one hand, and then enhancing views like from the field or from the masses, and like spectacular views from above, and you can choose where you're looking. That's cool, but I don't see that it's just the whole game in VR. The problem is like the cameras are not there yet, and also while streaming these huge amounts of data, you get poor results. That's why it's limiting. And we're waiting for 5G because this is going to be the enabler for a lot of things. But also if you have 5G, and that's the same with volumetric video, it's super cool. I love it. But actually how to bring this in like a living room of an average guy in Germany or in US, I don't know. And that's the problem we're facing. And maybe this is a good selling argument while go back to the cinema and have there this massive experience. But while taking this to the masses, you have to carefully choose the cases. And sports, there are some good examples. Also, for example, like I love like wave riding. So there's this big wave tour, and it's huge. These are like 26 feet high waves. And if you film this in like 180 stereoscopic, you get a much better impression from the scale of the wave. Why? Because we're using stereoscopic content. So I think it's super interesting, but you have to take care what kind of sport you're choosing for. And there you are also facing a lot of problems while who's the content owner, all the rights and these and that. So there's a lot of problem. Everybody wants to participate from this. And I believe, I don't know if you realize that this time the World Championship Soccer, you have seen the GoPro Fusions everywhere. I think it was a test. You can also watch some parts, but I think that in 4 years, in Qatar especially, they need it so badly because due to reasons. So they I will bet on this. They will stream the whole the whole championship in VR. So maybe I'm right, maybe not, but hope we will do this.
Yeah.
Stand a good chance. I mean, I think that the sports also, the esports, is one of these areas where, for instance, at Oculus Connect, as Kathleen mentioned, the thing that they put the most emphasis on was all of these esports, and I don't think you can also imagine. I mean, if you're not a gamer or you're not following the trends in gaming these days, I think it would be sort of unbelievable to you how many millions of people are watching, you know, and are involved in esports. It's a staggering number.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the only
you know.
thing I was against is that it was arena-style first-person shooter. So it was a little bit what we were talking about,
That's
which
true.
is if you could pick some content for an arena style, I don't know if I'd be picking first-person shooter per se, just, you know, for the reputation, for what it has. I actually was hoping that they'd come out with something a little bit less controversial.
Aggressive,
I mean,
yeah.
and it's just that first-person shooters, obviously, like I said, I was part of the Medal of Honor team, and so that was 1996. And we're still there recognizing that that is a big seller on the ROI, but the content it's arguable in the United States, at least, as far as, you know, guns. So
Yeah.
and I'm not saying this from a parental point of view. I'm just saying, like, arena style, all of that emphasis, it's a lot.
It's a part of the, exactly, and I think that for most people, they want to see that the industry is maturing also.
Yeah.
They want to be able to sort of see who the demographic is and see who that is appealing to. And, you know, when I was in the gaming industry, you know, the majority of people playing first-person shooters were, you know, males like 18 to 34, right?
Yeah,
It was,
true.
yeah, this was like that was really the market at that time. And so, you know, when you look at who's the content being made for, and if we want that content to be appealing to more people, like, it's got to go beyond, right? But gaming is always going to be the tip of the spear. It's always gaming and adult entertainment, and these things are going to be the tip of the spear because they're going to move the technology forward because it's an early adopter,
Right.
Yeah.
right? So if you're appealing to an early adopter audience, I mean, arguably you could say, no, make content that now is using the technology of what VR enables to do training or learn a new language or meet new people and all of these amazing cultural things we could do. But it's still a numbers game. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I would like to answer your question somehow that you raised in terms of the AR and the adoption of also VR. So, in my personal opinion, I think that it's all about the user's convenience. So it was cardboards were inconvenient. Oculus Go is much more convenient, but it's in the end it's the purpose for the user. So the ease of use in the end. So and this raises as well the question. Okay, we're coming up right now with an SDK to fulfill the market demand right now. But of course, it would be cooler for us to have a native camera integration on the operating system, and I mean, like, that brings me back to the purpose and the form factor. AR glasses will be most likely only a viewing device, like a display with a back channel, with an input and output channel. So the calculating power most likely will be in the pocket, in the iPhone generation, I don't know, like X or 12 or whatever. So XX, whatever. Exactly. So they are really putting a lot of effort, and they ever did, into convenience and the ease of use also for a headset. And a native camera integration is always the best solution for us, because that's why they approach it towards hardware manufacturers on that area, be it like, it doesn't matter, Magic Leap, HoloLens, or smartphones. We don't care. If they integrate it into their operating system, we're happy enough. And then you don't need any apps anymore. Of course, that's the end game and at that stage.
The end boss.
So, did you have a response to that?
No, just say the end boss.
Yeah, the end boss. So I want to bring up something that we haven't talked about yet during the conference, or not very much. There was a little bit of talk about it earlier today with, I think, a mention of spatial OS. But one of the things that I want to bring up is, of course, this notion, and it's journalist in the US, Charlie Fink, has been quoted as saying the world will be painted in data, and that this conversation around persistent augmentations and accessing data that has been, put and assigned to a location or authored in that location. I think that that's one of the other things that we should also look at, and we should look at what's coming, and it will be the thing that we are going to access through our phones, through our cameras, because we will be able to have that, not just object recognition, but actual, through the camera and through the devices, accelerometer and gyroscope, we'll know where we are exactly in space. And that's going to enable augmented reality with the power of the AR cloud to be able to deliver experiences that are location-based, that are not even about a VR headset per se, but are all of these more cross-platform experiences if you have a camera, right? If you have any device with a camera, any device that would be able to read it and know where it is in space. And that's indoors and outdoors. So I think that these are converging technologies that are going to change so many aspects of the way that we even define MR, VR, AR, XR, that I kind of wanted to go back to just calling it VR. I was like, can we just call it one thing again, But we can't, or XR, because there's so many ways of talking about it, and but I do think that we're on the verge of another shift in the way and where we access information and how we access it.
Yeah,
well, even just the 10 finalists is such a broad representation of it all and how everybody's coming into the conversation, which I thought was wonderful or 9, 10 or 9, 9. Was a wonderful sort of landscape view into that exact conversation. And each one has its timeline. So where do you think we drop into that in its full expression of self?
Well, let's see. I mean, I think that, like I said, I think coming back to this idea of spatial computing for me is really the most important element, because I feel like when we are able to, access content, AR content or information, and whether that's backed up with blockchain or however it's backed up, we will be using all of these devices as a portal in a different way than we're currently using them now. And I think that every VR experience I've ever had, or I've seen other people have, they love that experience, and then they almost want to add, they're like, what can I do next? Like, what else is coming, right? What's the next exhilaration, And I think that when I think about what it's going to enable, having like AR cloud and persistent augmentations and data backing up all of these experiences, I think to myself, wait a second, like, we're going to create a new history. We're going to have history and place will be merging for the first time in a way that it hasn't merged before, and that's very fascinating to me. We can go back to a single location and pull back its digital history, and go back anywhere in the world and review forwards, backwards. This kind of thinking is what is exciting to me. So,
providing you can own your own data.
Yeah, there's a few challenges.
Right.
Let's see. Are there more questions? And so maybe.
Sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
I just want to jump back to the whole discussion about who will be the first mover in terms of the whole mass adoption of AR glasses. I think what you pointed out, especially like whether it's Apple or whether it's other companies who will be the first to generate mass adoption. And I'm really glad that you brought up about the human eye, because I guess people love to talk about what is AR experience, what is VR experience, but I think it's never really talk about the properties of human eyes, because that's the topic that really that is always cropping up is basically the field of view. I remember like back in the day when Alex Kipman, the principal developer for Microsoft HoloLens, the interviewer was like, okay, the field of view of HoloLens is really small. And his answer was, well, would you have things like bigger TV screen but crappy resolution, or you have smaller screen with low latency, with really clear, crisp image. So his understanding is about the human eye, how we perceive reality, and to have that kind of precision or to have that kind of fidelity is really important in AR, because optics is such a challenging task. And I can understand from a physicist's point of view that like the way photon hits our eyes and the way light travels to generate all this imagery, it takes a long time. And yes, it will take probably more than 6 years, or probably less, who knows. There must be like some kind of, someone out there who's like interested in physics or an expert in optics to actually do something that will enable rich AR experience. And this is where we will trigger something along the way in the future. So I'm glad you brought up the whole human eye thing. So
yeah. The funny thing is about the HoloLens, I totally agree that it's better to have like a crisp display, but the problem is it breaks the illusion. You realize again, and we humans are pretty good in realizing what's reality and what's not. Even if we aren't, we aren't. That's why these guys with the roller coaster do some magic trick. They stress you so much that you forget about all the little details because you can't focus on them. Mm-hmm. I have no time. I was chasing like the Ottifants there. I was flying around, and then I wasn't able to realize that there are some little details that are not 100% correct. And also while just addressing another sense like gravity and motion, this is supporting so much. That's why also spatial audio is so important, while you have like 360 video and also give like audio cues, because we humans, this feels natural. And it breaks the illusion if you have a 360 video and stereo sound. Then you turn your head and the sound is still there, so that's not cool. And I think that these little adjustments maybe could bring us to a better experience, and also find out the cases that fit better or less good to this technique, AR and VR. And from my point of view, also AR with a smartphone. I think I use my smartphone a lot, and I have tried every AR app. But me personally, never in private, just once. I take the measurement from Apple, from ARKit, to measure the size of the wall, because that was cool. But never used any other AR app because my arm's getting weak. I'm sorry to say this, but nobody's going to do this. That's my bad. But on the other hand, I believe that we need now to focus on platforms and strategies to be there in the future and not leave the field for everybody else. But it's a long ride, and you need a lot of money to come there. And if you look at Magic Leap, now they're just praying for some developers and paying them $500K to build an experience. And I think they're not going to make it. Magic Leap, they don't going to make it because they overpromise too much, and now they have very bad expectation management,
Right.
and they have very bad experience and creepy software. So yeah, sorry to say this. That's my.
I think it's interesting. You talked about field of view. I appreciate you bringing that up because just to put it into perspective, it's 30-degree field of view, I believe, for the HoloLens, and then it's 35 degrees on the Magic Leap. Yeah. So it's about 17% bigger. But the HoloLens 2, right? So the next HoloLens to come out, at least I believe the patent has sort of left room for it to get up to 70%. But if you look at ODG glasses, right, which are already up at 90%, I think that you see already that like you said, you do need the developers to figure out which platform. They have to kind of like place their bet. I got to place my bets on where am I going to develop for, and then did I make the right call? Is 90% the right amount? Is 35% the right amount? These are always trade-offs, and so I think that it's really hard for the developer community. And I'd like to also add that one of the things that we're seeing in the contraction in the marketplace right now sort of is companies are running out of their VC money, at least in the Bay Area. And so when you run out of VC money and you don't have a use case, like even a measuring tape, where you're going to have something useful for your app, then where are you going to get your money, right? Yeah. You have to have a product. At the end of the day, your business has to be cash flow positive, right? Or at least it has to have proof to investors that it will one day be. So I think that we also need to see, in order for these companies to survive, there has to be contraction. That's just what's going to happen. We can't support hundreds of different kinds of glasses and wearables. But we also have to, as a business people, come in and sort of recognize that perhaps like these business skills need to also translate into this industry, and you need to have a really great management team. It's not like you get a free pass just because you're doing a creative endeavor. So I think that that would be one of the things for the future that I think that mass adoption, what could usher in mass adoption are also these sort of business acumen has to come along with it. So
well, that reminds me of AugSense we were talking about yesterday. I worked on an AR piece that was spatial mapping pathways for people with a visual impairment and blindness, and it showed at AWE 2 years ago. And there was maybe 8 investors that were interested in AugSense, and the upsetting part was that they quickly realized that there was a better application for AugSense, and that was to use it for the architect, engineering, and construction industry for the 30% delta that happens between blueprints and build, and all this money would float if we switched models. So we were about to give up 200 million people in the world that are blind, giving them the ability to find a chair, to access a bathroom, and to know where stairs are for the architect, engineering, and construction industry. So that's a hard pill to digest, and it didn't have the most positive outcome, unfortunately. But there's plenty of people who are in this space. But at the time, it was a real moral question. So we could get mass adoption, but we're leaving out the mission. So that was a big struggle in that same vein.
It's heartbreaking when you see companies struggle with that and not having the runway or having this idea that has so much that it can offer, but it just can't get to market, right? Yeah. So absolutely.
Especially in VR. I think that's the major problem right now because, like you said, they run out of money and they don't make money. It's just like they promise, and now 2 years later, still they don't make money. Look at Jaunt VR. They skipped now the VR production. That was a $100 million investment for just VR content production, and now they're shut down. They're just focusing on volumetric scanning and something like this. And there are a lot of other examples, and I think that's pretty true. And before we had this nice discussion, thanks to the Internet Economy Foundation, sorry, Clark, with Bundesminister Altmaier. And there was a good presentation from Oliver Samwer. Who don't know Oliver Samwer? He's this rocket guy, and he was just hitting the table and saying, hey guys, we have to wake up. Look at America, look at China, we're investing so less. Yeah, and then they dropped some numbers, that, and everybody was crying, And then I was asking them, okay, because Germany just understand like automotive and e-commerce. And that's it. And deep tech like AI, that takes years. VR, AR, all these things, you have to work in stealth mode for years and years. They don't understand. And you can't pitch these topics in an elevator. And so we have to change our mind where to put the money and maybe make some smaller milestones and not get like expected that you get cash flow positive after 5 years, but having more money to give these young companies to support them on the road that they get success at the end.
Absolutely. So we have a few minutes left, I think a couple minutes left. Is there another question from the audience that you'd like to have us take? Anybody? No? Is there one more? Go ahead.
Sorry?
No.
Felix?
Yeah. Good.
So I think maybe we could just do a quick round then and sort of just say parting thoughts. Are we there yet? Yes or no?
I say yes for moving the wheel.
Okay, so we have one yes.
I say yes, because we see now the uptake and it's a little beginning, but I'm very positive looking in the future if you make the right decisions and focus on just one thing and not try to make everything. Yes.
So I'm also a yes. And I want to just add to that I think we are in the chasm. I think we are absolutely in the chasm, but we can see that we can see the beachhead, and we are going to get there. And I think that it's that focus that it's going to take for the industry to reach it. And I would just like to end this discussion by just saying thank you so much for this very stimulating discussion, and thanks for the great questions. And also we have, like as Clark said in the panel before, we have still a great program left for the day, and thank you everybody for sticking around and being a part of this. So yeah.